During the ancient Greek, in particular, there was developed the idea of just naturalism, but in a different way. In fact, the idea of just naturalism in the ancient Greek society it was developed in relation with the idea of gods and goddesses that were part of the pantheon of the ancient Greek society. In fact, the first type of argument it is that on the one hand, there was a specific type of pantheon of the Greeks. This is really important because we have to consider that the Greeks developed their pantheon with Homer. Therefore, we have to consider that when Homer developed his specific type of point of view, he developed this type of he develops a specific type of point of view in relation with some gods and goddesses that they have their type of inclinations, their type of attitudes, but in particular their type of ends. This is really important because, on the other hand, therefore, each type these gods would like to do something to develop better its type of ends, and these ends are in conflict between the different type of gods. We know this really good, really good in the Iliad in particular, but also in the Odyssey that Homer wrote. In fact, in the Iliad on the one hand and the Odyssey on the other hand, there are different type of gods and goddesses that develop the types of ideas in relation with what is just and what is unjust. This is really important because, for example, in the Iliad, there are some gods who participate supporting, for example, the Trojans. For example, Aphrodite, who had a specific type of relationship with the Trojans because had Aeneas as his son, but at the same time, Parides chose her as the beautiful goddesses between Hera and Aphrodite and Hera and Athena. Aphrodite is chosen by Parides as the main beautiful uh, goddesses. But on the other hand, therefore, there is also, for example, the idea that Poseidon, or in any case also Athena, supported in this sense the idea of the Greeks during the War of Troy. In any case, the literature in the ancient Greek society arrived to think that gods are in relation between them, but fought and fight between them. And they are in relation with nature. They are part of the nature. But at the same time, there is no an objective rule of law where there is a metaphysical idea of a specific type of good. Yeah, Zeus, it in the end, the idea of rule that in the end he has to decide to follow that rule because on the one hand he is as the other gods and goddesses. Sometimes he follows his hands, sometimes he decides to follow his passion, but at the same time he has to remember that he is the king of Olympus, the king of the gods and goddesses. He has to follow the main rule as rule of law of the Olympus in relation with the destiny. Therefore, Zeus, that idea that has to follow the idea of destiny and demands that everything develop in relation with the destiny. This is really important because also in the Iliad, Zeus in the end explained also to his brother Poseidon that it wasn't more a question of some gods supported the Trojans, other gods supported the Greeks, but it was a question of destiny. It was destiny that Achilles killed the brother of Parides, Hector. It was destiny that Patroclus died, was killed for the head of Hector. Patroclus, sorry. It was the destiny that Patroclus dead for the head for the hand of Hector, because then it was destiny that Achilles decided to fight against Hector, kill him. This is really important. And Zeus, in relation with this idea, arrived to think this because it was the main idea in relation connecting with ruler, with the idea of rule. This is really important. But, for example, in particular, and this is the second argument, in the period of the tragedies, of the comedies, in particular in the period of the classical period, we know that, for example, arrived some important tragedies as Antigones that, for example, the Antigones of Sophocles, that arrived to connect this idea of debate between each god as he ends, and there is no objective rule between gods in relation with the idea of objective rule of destiny, in relation with costumes, in relation with tradition, in relation with culture. This is really important because Sophocles, it is in relation with the idea of Homer, the myth, the mythology of Homer, but at the same time, it is in relation with also with the idea of cure that Homer developed. In fact, the idea of Homer it was we have also to develop a specific type of connection with the idea of the death, and in particular, we have to consider that a man arrived to be dead. We have to decide to bury him. Therefore, for example, Antigones consider Creontes in the tragedy of Sophocles a tyrant, not a king, because Creontes doesn't want that the brother of Antigones, Polynice, could be buried. This is really important because therefore, according to Antigones, Creonte developed a specific type of opposition in relation with tradition, and therefore Antigones, taking the idea of Homer in relation with the idea of destiny, in relation with the idea of costume, in relation with the idea of culture, tried to criticize Creonte, in particular with this idea of connection with the idea of culture of the dead, the death. This is really important to understand, and at the same time, therefore, there is a connection between the idea of Homer, the idea of Sophocles, that develops a specific type of character, Antigones, that is really interesting because try to develop a specific type, originally a specific type of natural law in relation with the idea of subjective law that each god of Olympus had, but connecting this idea in relation with Zeus that had a specific type of destiny as the ruler of destiny. This is main important, because really important, most important, the most important idea that Greeks developed as natural law near Plato. This is the other tradition of ancient Greeks. Plato developed his idea of natural law, but also this tradition of Antigones, connecting the idea of Homer, of literature, of the Homeric poems. We know that the Greeks lived in an idea that gods were into the nature, were part of the nature, were part of the normal life. Antigones and Sophocles wanted to explain this. Antigones is the main character that developing the idea of connection and battles and tragedies between goddesses and gods of Olympus without the idea of objective rule, without Zeus, and the end Zeus tried to think about this idea. Antigones in the end, using these characters, arrived to think that the costumes, the cultures are main important and are more important than the tyrant. And in the end, the tyrant that would like to use the subjective idea of imposition, it is the tyrant because he, in any case, cannot develop a specific type of new law against the tradition. This is why we have a connection between the idea of Homer and the idea of tragedy in the sense of Sophocles. Bye.